We have some few minutes available. There are lots of questions are here. And see what we can do. What is Karma Yoga? I hear many interpretations. If you can suggest one or two practices in daily life that one can incorporate as Karma Yoga, it will be helpful. I think we have already done it, right? This question is, what is the one or two practices? One, be a contributor. Perform acts of kindness. And second, that as best as you can, give up expectations from what you do. Now, we will request you to wait for a few minutes because we still have to complete our program in terms of giving your gift. So, all right. Second, I seek your advice on how I can lead a life that is purposeful. All the 3 days talks were only for that purpose, isn't it? Purposeful. Why does our mind wander around every time? Because of likes and dislikes. The raga and dveshas, they pull away our mind. So therefore it distracts. What is the purpose of anger? Everything is a manifestation of Ishvara. These negative, positive emotions are internal at the mind level. They may be triggered by an external object, person, situation, but they are already there in the mind. Is the purpose of the anger to remind us that we are searching in the wrong place, or is there some other purpose? What is the purpose of anger? Anger does not serve any purpose. Anger only damages. First, the person who gets angry is damaged first, and then the person who becomes object of anger is further damaged. So, Kama, Krodha, Lobha. Lord Krishna says, Tasmat etat trayam tyajet. Therefore, hey Arjuna, please give up these three. Etar vimuktah kaunteya tamodvaris tribhinara acharatyatmana shreya tato yati param gatim. That means that you start helping yourself only when you have made yourself free from the impact of these three. Do not come under their sway. Become free from their sway, and then only you will really be on the right track to your self-growth. So anger should not be justified. We should know that anger is our enemy. Anger damages us and damages others. It damages all relationships. It creates misery in our life and through us in other life also. Therefore, we should have a value of overcoming anger. It is a product of ignorance. This kama, krodha, lobha, all these negative tendencies or whatever demoniac tendencies are products of ignorance. On the other hand, all these tendencies of kindness and compassion and love are products of knowledge. Etad jnanamiti prottam ajnanam yadatonyatha. The 13th chapter, Lord Krishna says, this is called knowledge, humility, non-pretentiousness, non-violence, forgiveness, straightforwardness, honesty. This is knowledge. The opposite, cruelty, this is ignorance. So our life should be a process of getting rid of ignorance and asserting the knowledge. So understand that anger is the product of ignorance. And therefore, we should have a value of overcoming the anger. To briefly talk about anger, anger is a product of something. The cause of anger lies within ourselves. You cannot get rid of anger unless you get rid of cause of anger. Like pulling out the weeds, if you just clear the weeds on the side, so long anger will come back. So all these methods, if you get angry and say Ram Ram 10 times and do punching, that's all right. It will give you some kind of relief, but anger will not go. So you do that, nothing wrong in it. But we must know that anger is frustrated kamesha krodesha. What is kama or demand? When unfulfilled becomes anger. Anger is the distorted form of demands. We are very demanding people. We demand things from the rest of the world as to how the whole world should conduct itself in order for me to be happy. So the spouse must conduct this way, children that way, parents that way, neighbor this way, the mayor this way, the governor this way, the prime minister, the president. For everybody we have a prescription. What they should do and what they should not do. And when they fail that prescription, we get angry. Anger is an expression of frustration that I could not have my way. Always on my way or highway, my way I want. When I cannot get my way, I get frustrated, I get angry. Anger is an expression of inner frustration, inner helplessness. A person does not deliberately become angry, becomes helplessly angry. Or Swamiji would say, invite the audience, come on, get angry. Get angry. Try. However we try, we cannot get angry. We don't get angry, anger gets us. And therefore, once it comes, we have no control over that. So when you find that anger is coming, then you have some chance. Before it goes to a point where it becomes uncontrollable, you have some chance. You repeat, compassion, 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 forgiveness, compassion, kind. Because anger is expression of intolerance, insensitivity, and therefore kindness. Be kind, be compassionate, forgive. Keep repeating that. Hopefully that impulse of anger may subside. But whenever anger subsides, even suppose you got angry, whatever happened, then we can look at that episode as to what is it that caused that anger. You'll find that there was some demand in your mind which did not get satisfied and therefore you got angry. So what was that demand? Identify the demand. Ask your mind, can I drop this demand? If you can drop it, that is one less cause of anger. There are millions of demands, but one demand is gone. Thus, identify the demands and try to let them go. You know why demand is there? Because I do not accept others as they are. I want them to be my way. I want them to change so that it suits me. I want you to change to suit me. Vedanta says, forget about changing others, change yourself. Means what? What is suits me. You follow? Right now, if you sit that way, then it suits me. I keep myself intact and want to change others. Vedanta says, give them the freedom to be what they are. You change yourself. How do you change? What is suits me. Change your definition of what suits you. What is? That's how Ishvara has created. That's how that person is. You are not created. You can't control. You can't change them. And therefore, gracefully accept them as they are, as Ishvara's prasada. Favorable, prasada. Unfavorable, prasada. Likeable, prasada. Unlikeable, prasada. Sometimes prasada is bitter also. Sometimes it is sweet. Sometimes sour. Depends on your luck. You go to Tirupati, then depends on what you get. You may get a laddu or you may get that what is it, puliyodara, that sour rice or something like that. Depends on your life, prarabdha. So life also sometimes gives laddu, sometimes something else. It all comes from Tirupati, that way is prasad. So accept the world as best as we can. Let us give the world the freedom to be what it is and gracefully accept them. Don't try to change them because nobody will change. No, you cannot change anybody. You can change. If they want to change, you can help them change. That's about all. But nobody will change because I demand a change. That will not work. Because I don't change because you want me to change. I want. So why should others also? And therefore, as best as we can, accept others and world around ourselves as gracefully as we can. Try to love what you have, enjoy what you have. Because what is Brahman, what is Ishvara, and therefore enjoy it as it is. The anger will go to the extent that I become less and less demanding. My expectation that the world should suit me, I should give up that expectation. On the other hand, I should transform myself to be able to enjoy the world as it is. That's what we want. We always want things to change, Then we can't enjoy what is. Like this, see, many years ago when living in New York, when you are in New York, people always come. When come from India, they become your guest, and when leaving India, also they go from New York. So then they again stay with you. So when they come to you, then you are very proud of this country, as though you belong here. And so you take them around and show the beauty of Hudson River and the valley and the mountains and things. So I take them to Lookout Point and see the panoramic view. My friend has just come in, I want to impress him. So yeah, you're right, but not like Mahabaleshwar. Though my balloon has burst, I mean, he cannot enjoy this because he wants this to be different. Even if a mountain also wants to be different, we can't enjoy it. And therefore, when can I enjoy something? When I can gracefully accept it as it is. Then I can see the beauty. Here I want to change things to make them beautiful. Ishvara, Gita or Vedanta says what is beautiful. So therefore, enjoy what is. The extent to be, the less and less demand, less and less anger. Define happiness. You see, we need not define because it is self-revealing. You know when you are happy. You follow? I don't need somebody else's approval or somebody else's evidence that I am happy. I know. Happiness is a state of mind, and I know when I am happy. So it doesn't define definition is required when you identify something. But here happiness is when you are happy with yourself, when there is self-acceptance, when there is self-satisfaction. That's when happiness is. More satisfied you are, more accepting you are of yourself, happier you are. Therefore, I am the problem for myself. I am unhappy because I do not accept myself as I am, let alone Mahabaleshwar. It starts with me. Not only do I have a problem with the world, first I have a problem with myself because I do not accept myself as I am. Therefore I am not satisfied. I think my nose should be different, my eyebrows should be different, hair should be different, that should be different, that should be different. I keep comparing myself with others and find myself insufficient, and then I judge myself inadequate. Whenever I judge myself inadequate, I am unhappy with myself. There is unhappiness. When I discover a moment of adequacy, I am happy. So self-satisfaction, self-acceptance is happiness, and self-non-acceptance unhappiness. So Vedanta says, accept yourself. Okay, Swami, I am accepting myself. You cannot. So we gave you the whole program of how to become self-acceptable. Only when we undertake this program, as long as raga dveshas are there, we cannot accept ourselves. When they go, I find myself acceptable. To the extent that they go, to that extent I find myself acceptable. They go away completely. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan, part describing that wise person, all his desire, all raga dveshas are gone. He is completely acceptable. That's my nature. By nature I am completely acceptable. These unnatural factors that create only this appearance of non-acceptability, so I have to just get rid of those inhibiting factors. That acceptance is my nature. Just bring to manifestation. Hindus believe in rebirth, karma, etc., whereas Christians, Islam do not. If you are all humans on this planet Earth, why this? What is it? Demarcation. There are as many people as many beliefs are there. Why should there be same belief? Just because we are on the same earth doesn't mean we believe the same thing. He says, how, if we are all humans on this planet Earth, why don't we all believe the same thing? Why should you believe the same thing? Tunde matir bhinna, they say, So as many people are there, as many beliefs are there. So Islam and Christianity has their own belief. What is the justification? I don't know. Nobody can justify that there is no rebirth or there was no previous birth. There was no justification. They don't accept law of karma, don't accept law of cause and effect. Whole science is based on law of cause and effect, which we are applying, at the moral level. And so, rebirth alone is only thing logical. That I did not have previous birth is not logical at all, because there is no explanation to why I am what I am. I am what I am because I had a history, and you are what you are because you had your own history. Each one of us has a unique history from the past, so we are the present product of the past. So we are what we are because of the history. There was no history then, why am I like this and why you like this? What's the explanation? God made you like that. What kind of God is that? Who makes me like this and makes you like that? That's the problem there with that God. Why has God done this? Why has God created this? No explanation. God is kind, He loves you. If He loves me, why does He make me like this? Why did He make me poor? Why did He make me miserable? If He loves me, God loves you. He loves you on one hand and makes you miserable on the other hand. So, it doesn't make sense to me. It makes sense to them, it's well and good. It doesn't make sense. Not accepting continuity of life makes no sense. And you know something? There is only one lifespan of 50, 100. That's insufficient to reach perfection, insufficient. You require, Lord Krishna says, Aneka Janmasam. This journey is carried over number of lifespans. In every lifespan you keep on making progress and ultimately you reach your ultimate goal. One lifespan is too little to expect that I will become, fit for heaven. Cannot. They think that just because you are baptized that you are qualified for paradise is stupid. Everybody is baptized, all criminals are baptized, so what? You can just baptize, that's all is enough. They don't understand. You must become Christ-like to become really qualified for that paradise. Christ was not for nothing. His teaching is not for nothing. That you remain what you are, and just because you are Christian, therefore you will go this way, and non-Christians go that. It's idiotic to believe like that. All stupid beliefs in my opinion anyway. And so Hinduism is the only thing that makes sense to me. To them it makes sense, is okay. To me, it doesn't make sense. Why is there so much mental unhappiness and killings in the world? Abuse of free will, that's all. All cruelty is abuse of free will. I'm doing unto others what I should not do to them. That's abuse of free will. I should do to others what I want them to do to me. That's the right use of free will. So all the problems that we see are created by human beings, as I said earlier, by abusing the free will. Wherever starvation, cruelty, whatever problem is all created by human beings. Don't blame God. Why has God created this world? He created us. And through us He has created all. We have created the misery. And we have to solve that misery by owning up our true nature. Is there a God or is it man-made? You even ask any true scientist. There are many great scientists who have said that we have to accept God. Because whatever science tells us so far, namely the so-called evolution, etc., the law of natural selection, etc., nothing is able to can explain this creation. When you go into process of creation, scientific way, you'll find that there are some very unique factors that made possible this universe to be what it is. For life to be there on this earth is a miracle. How many constants are we so precise? The earth must be where it is, and everything must be what it is For then only this life is possible on the earth. It would not have been possible unless precisely all these factors coincided. It cannot be a coincidence. It is an intelligent act. And so there is intelligence behind these things. It's not an accident. To believe that the universe is an accident doesn't make sense, because there is no accident. So, of course, we go by scriptures who say there is God and we are believers and so, and then God you can experience. See, God that Vedanta presents can be experienced by you. He's not in heaven, he's right here. And you know who is that God? Who is he? You are that. So you experience it. You live the life that Gita tells us and see for yourself that what they call God is nothing but you. So next question is God there or not? Our question is, are you there or not? If you are there, God is there. Simple answer, isn't it? Because you are not separate from God. What is the technical term of free will in Vedanta? Purushartha. Purushartha and prarabdha. So Purushartha means self-effort and prarabdha is destiny. Is free will driven by a prarabdha karma? No. As we say, what you confront is your destiny. The way you respond to that is a free will. So we have freedom. Very limited freedom, but we have. You may not have freedom to create anything out there. I may not have freedom to decide what I do, even that also somebody may dictate, that you have to do this. But the attitude with which I do, I have the freedom. Whether it is a selfish attitude or selfless attitude, I have that freedom. Whether I do what is right or what is convenient, I have that freedom. So that freedom is there, and there is enough freedom to lead you to your destination. Little freedom. After all, how much freedom do we have when you are driving our vehicle on the road? Very limited freedom. You have to follow the laws. You can't control the rest of the traffic, but limited freedom is enough. Not only in US, even in Ahmedabad, let alone Ahmedabad means you always wonder how people reach home. The kind of conditions that exist on the road, if you see from the air, the way things are going on, you just don't know how they reach home. But they do. That shows God must be there, I tell you. But in that chaotic condition also people use their freedom of driving their vehicle and reach their destination. So where we cannot control anything else, the limited freedom we have that. How do you maintain your calmness when dealing with difficult people? People who do cheat you and disturb your peace of mind because they are so negative and only think about themselves and are least worried about anyone outside themselves. How do you deal with these people? How do you maintain your calmness? Basically, you maintain your calmness by accepting what is. That's the way to maintain calmness. Moment we expect that what is should change to suit me, the calmness is gone. You accept what is, maintain calmness. How can you accept this for selfish people? It is their problem, not your problem. They are selfish, let them be. They don't give anybody else, let them not. Why do you allow yourself to be disturbed by them? See, nobody can disturb me unless I empower them to disturb me. Nobody can make us unhappy unless we empower them to make us unhappy. How do I empower them? By expecting them to be different from what they are. That's how I empower them. If I don't expect that, fine. Swami in Hindi, he doesn't know. So, dunya bada vistar hai, meaning what? There is room for everybody in the world. So they also have a room. God has created a vast world, everybody has a place. Let them have that place. Self-centered, fine. Negative, fine. You see, this person's problem is not that person. That negativity causes negativity here. That is the problem. I am the problem. The others are not problem. But what others manage to do is to trigger the problem within me. It's all there. Other people, they trigger that problem, and problem is created in my mind. I think that he is my problem. I am my problem. I have enabled him to affect me by triggering that within me, and then I get disturbed. If you give them the freedom to be what they are, selfish, okay. Negative, all right. Why do you dislike him? You have not created him. Have sympathy for that person. Understand that he must be an unhappy person. All self-centered people are unhappy people. All negative, unhappy people. No happy person will be self-centered. When you are happy, you are always generous. You remember that. When you are happy, you always want to do something. You always reach out. You are generous. The fact that I am not generous means I am not happy. Meaning that when you find people with negative tendencies, negative values, understand that they are all in pain, unhappy. They deserve your sympathy. They don't deserve your hatred. So sympathize with them, and you will not be disturbed. So we allow them to disturb us by expecting them to be different from what they are. But if you see the person behind that behavior, you find that he is a person in pain. He deserves your sympathy and not your hatred. That's how we deal with other people. How do you define happiness? I think that we already did. Oh, what's the purpose of anger? Which way am I going now? I thought I've seen this. Yes, I have. Because define happiness came twice, okay. Once person attains moksha, how his karmas become non-binding? Wow. So when a person has attained moksha and he still performs karma, don't this karma bind him? The karma do not bind anybody. It is the intention behind the karma that binds. So karma binds us when we perform karma in a self-centered way. Perform karma as motivated by ragadveshas is not karma that binds. The ragadveshas, that self-centeredness, that binds us. Wise person doesn't have that, that's all. Karma is there. Binding factor is not karma. It's here. That is gone. So he is not bound by the karma. Can you please explain real death if he is not leaving the body? Real death is only for the wise person, when he is not to be born again. We will be born again and again until we have reached the destination. Once you reach the destination, you have served the purpose. And then there is no further birth. That is called until death. That's called param parimuchyandi sarve. So paramrutaha. There is one death and there is ultimate death. So Bada Swami uses death means death of ego. That's one way of defining. Ego means ignorance. As long as ignorance is there, you keep getting birth again. So it is only death of the body. But when knowledge comes, then it is death of the ego also. That's the ultimate death. Vedanta says world is not real and it is not nothing, it is Maya. Can you please explain meaning of Maya? You remember that person who was looking at that golden necklace? We can't say it is not there because there is seen. If it was not there, it would not be seen. You can't say it is there because had it been there, you would retrieve it. You see, that's a very peculiar situation. That you remember the story, yeah, yesterday. That golden necklace you see in what is there or not there. If it is not there, you cannot see it. But if it is there, you should get it. You don't get it. Therefore, you can't say it is there. But you see it, so you can't say it is not there. So this situation when you cannot say that it is there, nor can you say it is not there, it's called Maya. That's Maya. Now think about it further. So we have completed the whole course here. Oh, some more? How do you deal with situation when a person thinks others are there to hurt him or her? So there are some people who think that the world is out there to hurt me. People are abusing him or her and causing pain for him or her constantly and to everyone else. How do you deal with a situation when you think like this? Sometimes it happens to us. Sometimes we have concluded that world is a very unfriendly place and people are out to hurt me. It is possible that I had to go through some painful experiences in my life when the people whom I trusted hurt me. Then your trust is violated. When trust is violated, often then it becomes difficult to trust. When I cannot trust others, I always suspect. Why is he here? What is he doing? Why is he looking at me? Why does he not look at me? Why does he look that side? Why that side? Everything then the mind keeps on projecting because it cannot take anything on the face value. It thinks that nothing is what it appears to be, that everybody is different from what they appear to be. So I keep on then imagining the intentions of the people. This is an unfortunate result of the trust being violated, not being able to trust others. But then we have to look at ourselves. Do I want to hurt others? No. Then why do I think that others want to hurt me? And therefore, best is to always trust. Because not trusting you don't get anything. Trusting you may get, trust may get violated, but it is always best to trust. And then test whether it works or not. Give them a benefit of doubt. Believe that people are inherently good. That's what it is. Human being is inherently a good person. A kind, beautiful, loving person. That's what we all are. The cruelty is not our nature. It is something which is an intruder, is incidental. All asuras or demons are intruders. Devatas are the real residents of our heart, which is called heaven. And therefore, everybody is basically a kind, good, loving person. That's a fact. At the same time, there are also demoniac tendencies are there because of this ignorance, etc. That's not the reality of them, and therefore, remind yourself that basically people are kind. Basically, they are loving. Helplessly they are unkind. So we have to make our mind see the goodness that also exists. Yes, evil also exists, but goodness also exists. So people whom I think are hurting me, let me look at all aspects of them. There may be an aspect which may be hurting aspect. There are other aspects also about the same person which are good aspects. So let my mind see the person in the totality. Then my conclusion that there is only one thing hurts. No, he helps also. So both are there. So maybe by looking at the person in totality, we may be able to overcome this feeling that everybody is out to hurt me. and you start helping others. You start helping others. Then you will invite help. Generally they say that what you do is what comes back to you. So start being kind to others, start helping others, perform acts of kindness, then you will find that act of kindness is returned to you also. Thank you. With that we conclude our discourse of 3 days with the Shanti Mantra. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.